weekly COVID-19 issues and opportunity series. Our topic today is identifying resources for small business sustainability, financing options, and unemployment. Thank you for joining us. In your chat box, you will find the resource guide link in the chat room, and that link links you to information that we think will be of value to you as you continue to navigate as best you can this entire COVID-19 debacle. I don't know what we want to call it, but as you work through that. And I see a gentleman on my screen. So if you can go ahead and I don't know if that's just my screen or not, but the resource guide link is there for your usage after this session. Also, if you have a question, please type that in the chat room, and we will answer that at 9:30 a.m. when we open up for Q&A. At the end of this session, later today, you will receive a survey, and that survey will ask you questions about today's session. It will ask you if you thought it was beneficial. It will also ask you if you'd like to recommend other topics for us to bring to you in the coming weeks. So please feel free to answer that, and we would like to hear your thoughts about the survey. Our speakers this morning are two well-known individuals in their particular arenas. Ms. Grace Fricks, who is President and CEO of Access to Capital for Entrepreneurs, better known as ACE, and Brent Wilson, who is partner with Elarbee, Thompson, Sapp, and Wilson. So we'll begin this morning with Ms. Grace Fricks. Grace, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here with you. I'm sorry about the circumstances, of course. I'm the founder of ACE. It's 20 years old now, and ACE is not a bank, it is not government, and it is not a finance company. ACE is something called a CDFI, a Community Development Financial Institution, and we've been certified by Treasury as that for the last 16 years. What that means is that we provide financing along with coaching and connections to small businesses so that they can grow. And our target market is underserved populations and underserved people. So in our particular case, that means that 80% of everyone we serve is either African American, Hispanic, a woman, or has a low, moderate income, or lives in a low income area. All entrepreneurs, that's all we do is small business. In our years, we've helped 1,000 small businesses. Owen, would you put the slide up, please? There's a younger me. Next. Okay. I wanted to, we don't use any stock photos, and I wanted to at least share with you about one person on here because I think her story just gives me hope, and hopefully it will you. The bottom right hand is Ardina Pierre, and she has Nature's Own Herb Shop in Hateville. And she is a registered nurse, but she's also gone and gotten a doctorate in homeopathy. She was ABL's Against the Odds winner a few years ago. And while everybody else is having a hard time getting customers, she, because of what she does, and because she already was connected to delivering things on the internet, she is just doing great because everybody's interested in boosting their immune system. So I just thought I would share that, you know, there are some people that are doing well. Next slide, please, Owen. Okay, you'll have to look close at this, but I wanted to show it to you. one of the things that we did was opened a new loan last week. On the left side, you'll see that it was the Fulton County Emergency Loan Program. The funds were provided by the Fulton County Commission. You can also see that it opened, and this is really important, it opened on the 7th at 3 o'clock last week. And then we closed it on the 10th, 3 days later at 3 o'clock. The reason we did that is because the Fulton County Commission put in $1.5 million to make loans up to $50,000 for emergency purposes to small businesses. And by the time we closed it, it was oversubscribed. We had almost $4 million worth of applications. Now, as I told Leona, I would not be on here if there wasn't some hope. So like it says on the right side, stay tuned. This week, there will be something else announced. So you can check our website regularly at aceloans.org. The other thing is, because of our relationship with ABL, as soon as something else is opened up this week, we will be letting Leona know, and she will notify you as well. The product that is going to be open is going to be very, very similar to the one you see on the screen. It'll be, in fact, it'll look exactly like this, except it'll be offered by a different entity, and it will include people that live in the city of Atlanta. This particular opportunity did not include that. I'm just going to go through this very quickly. The loans go up to $50,000. We're doing this differently than we do any other loans, because this is an emergency loan, and it is also based on a trust relationship between us and our customers or our clients. So it's for those who have a loss of revenue, lost business disruptions. For working capital, goes up to $50,000. The terms are for 36 months. The first 3 months will be deferred payments. The second 3 months, it'll be interest only. And the last 30 months will be principal and interest. The rate's 4%. And there are no fees to apply, no fees to close the loan. There'll be a blanket lien placed on all business assets, and we'll ask for a personal guarantee. The part under other, which is really important, is these are for businesses that are at least 2 years old. The reason for that is that this program is set up for businesses that we want to really ensure that they're stable and can be here 3 or 4 months from now to continue growing or to get back on their feet. Next slide, please. Owen, you with me? Okay. One of the things that has happened with the other Fulton County loan that we just showed you is a lot of people applied, and the process for any loan is you apply online at aceloans.org, and then a loan officer from our organization is going to reach out to you and talk to you. They're going to ask you for these exact documents that you see here. And we'll go through these very quickly. But right now, what's happening is there have been about 15 loans that have closed because the rest of them are caught in a bottleneck because people do not have their documents ready. So I'm giving you this so that you can be prepared to have your documents ready so that you can submit those. And because it's a first come, first serve. So get your documents ready. The documents are very simple for this particular loan. If you've got your business tax returns, most people haven't filed yet. I know I haven't filed yet. You'll need your balance sheet and your income statement for this year. So that's what they look at to determine how your business was doing before and how it's doing now. You need the front and back copy of your driver's license, so you can send that in. If there's an owner that owns more than 20%, if you and someone else owns your business and they own more than 20%, then they're going to ask for that person's driver's license too. So get that ready. Credit reports will be pulled, but they are not looking at a score. They are looking at the history. They're looking at your overall situation with debt right now. So let's assume that they're going to approve your loan. When they approve it, then they'll let you know, and then they're going to need some other documents from you. So get those ready. Have your articles of incorporation or operating agreement, whatever your legal documents are that establish you as a business. Have those ready, and have a voided check so that we can ACH the money into your account. It's a very simple process, and we will do everything. You'll scan the document, just sign the documents and scan them in, and a loan officer will go over this with you. And then you'll get original documents in the mail that you sign and mail back to us. We do not have DocuSign. So, but we're going to just trust by you just signing and scanning it into us that it is your signature. Next slide. Owen? Okay. Before we go over these resources, I had written down a couple things I wanted to be sure to remind you. It's very important, even though it's a pain, to go ahead and apply for the SBA Emergency Injury Disaster Loan, the EIDL, and also for the Paycheck Protection Program, PPP. Because even with a loan from us, it's not going to be enough to hold you over. You're going to need more cash. In this instance, cash is really king. So go ahead and do those applications. Even if you don't want to, as screwed up as it is right now, do that. If your bank is not able to do that for you, I read recently, yesterday, that Intuit and PayPal are actually doing those loans, and they have deep pockets. So you can go to their websites and see how to do that. These are resources for you. The first is us, and if you've got any questions, you can call or go to the website. We also have a women's business center that serves men and women. It's an SBA Women's Business Center. They are prepared to provide you a variety of different kind of resources, and I also put their resource packet in the resource information for ABL. We have a partnership with Morehouse Innovation and Entrepreneurship Center, and that's Dr. Tiffany Bussey, and she has all the same information and that we have. So if you'd rather contact Dr. Bussey, you can do that. At the bottom with Lift Fund and Local Initiative Support Corporation, also called LISC. Those are two entities that are similar to ACE that are here in Atlanta. And if you want to reach out to them, I encourage you to see what type of loan products they have. Thank you so much, and I'll be happy to take questions later on.
Thank you, Grace. Brent Wilson, thank you.
Good morning. And thank you for being with us this morning. I jokingly told our group before we began that I'm in the market for some Murray's hair pomade because I haven't had this much hair on my head since college. So those of you who are within the range of my voice, if you have your Murray's hair pomade stash, information with respect to reaching me and contacting me is available at the end of the slides. We spoke briefly about getting money, and I'm going to focus on issues that you may be facing with respect to reducing your workforce and or reducing the hours. And Owen, if you could put up the second slide. There are a couple of things that we want to accomplish. What options you have for reducing your labor cost, what the new unemployment requirements are for temporary reductions that are consistently and constantly changing, and the new federal laws impacting benefits primarily in the Families First Coronavirus Recovery Act. Next slide. What are your options as you face this COVID-19 pandemic in terms of keeping your business viable? First, you can certainly reduce staff headcount, reduce the hours that your employees or staff are working, reduce pay rates. We're seeing a lot of that even in the law firm space, where law firms are reducing compensation of their employees and or of their equity partners by 20% or more in order to continue to operate, and or you can close the business temporarily. Next slide. In terms of reducing your head count, you can furlough employees. And when we talk about furlough, a furlough is not a formal separation of employment. And or you can lay off employees, which is a complete separation of employment, but there is an expectation of recall. And finally, in certain circumstances, you may have a need to terminate employees or staff. In terms of reducing hours of work, you can potentially go to a rotating shift or rotating days, shorter shifts, but you need to be concerned about how you pay your employees and whether or not they are hourly employees who are not exempt from the requirements of the Fair Labor Standards Act, or salary employees who are exempt from certain requirements of the Fair Labor Standards Act. In many of your benefit plans also, you have to ensure that if you are reducing hours, if you intend for those employees to continue to have their benefits, you have to calculate the hours to make sure you are not reducing their hours so that those employees would not be covered under your health benefit plans. What are your basic options in terms of reducing pay? You can reduce the hourly rates, or you can reduce salaries. In terms of reducing hourly rates, be mindful of the fact that you cannot take the hourly rate below the Fair Labor Standards Act minimum wage, which is $7.25 an hour. Or if you are dealing with exempt employees, you cannot take their salary below the Fair Labor Standards Act minimum of $684 a week. You may also be in a position where you find yourself having to review employment contracts if you have any type of employees with whom you have a contract agreement. Next slide.
Larry, is it possible
Hey, Grace? Okay. All right, so the next option is the next slide too, please. Who is eligible for unemployment insurance? If a person has earned wages in at least 2 quarters during a base period in the year, if they've earned at least $1,134 in wages during the 2 quarters of the base period, they are eligible for unemployment compensation. Total wages during the base period must equal at least 1.5 times the wages earned in the highest quarter of the base period. How is the benefit amount calculated? The benefit amount is calculated by combining the wages from the 2 highest quarters in the base period and dividing that number by 42. The weekly benefit amount is subject to a weekly minimum of $55 and a maximum of $365. Benefits are available for up to 26 weeks for claims filed after March 16th. Any wages over $300 a week for weeks after March 29th, 2020 result in a dollar for dollar reduction. Who is eligible for unemployment compensation? Next slide. Anyone who has been terminated, laid off, or furloughed as a result, which results in a loss of employment, is eligible. You are also eligible if there has been a significant pay reduction. So even if you continue to work, if the pay has been reduced at a deep enough discount, an individual still can be eligible for unemployment. The termination reasons, however, cannot be disqualifying. If an individual is terminated, quote, for cause, they are not eligible for unemployment compensation. And if someone voluntarily resigns, they are not eligible for unemployment compensation. Now, because of the Families First Coronavirus Recovery Act, there are special rules that are applying in this period of COVID-19. Next slide, please. Under the CARES Act, which also is the act under which small businesses can request loans, an additional $600 a week is available for unemployment compensation to your terminated, laid off, or furloughed employees. And under the terms of the CARES Act, those who qualify has been expanded to include freelancers, gig workers, independent contractors, and part-time employees. So even if you are an independent contractor who otherwise would not be eligible for unemployment compensation, under the CARES Act, you would now be eligible. You are eligible for up to 13 additional weeks. You must be available for work and seeking work, but you can get up to 39 weeks of unemployment if your unavailability, to work is due to the COVID-19 health crisis. Qualified employers who reduce hours in lieu of layoffs can also claim a 50% federal funding of unemployment benefits not available to seasonal, temporary, or intermittent employees. As of March 16th, 2020, the Department of Labor adopted an emergency rule which requires, and it's the next slide, please, that an employer must file for each week partial claims online on behalf of their employees for any week during which an employee works less than full time due to a partial or total shutdown caused by the COVID-19 public health emergency. The Georgia Department of Labor has been slow to implement, and the U.S. Department of Labor has been slow to issue the regulations. However, online filing is required, and employees must be expected to return to work when the COVID crisis ends. Next slide. As previously mentioned, registration is available online. Many individuals are having difficulty reaching the Georgia Department of Labor through their online portal. Some people have stood in line in an attempt to file unemployment. Hopefully, the Georgia Department of Labor will become a little bit more sophisticated and process claims in a more timely manner. The benefits issued will be charged to an employer's account, but a failure to file will require you to reimburse the full amount of benefits. So if the employer fails to file online indicating the reduction, and that person gets unemployment compensation as a result, the employer will be required to reimburse the full amount of benefits that were paid. If you are an owner and a W-2 employee, you can file for yourself. So if you are receiving a W-2 as an owner, you can file for yourself. However, if an employee stays at home by choice, i.e. I'm afraid to come to work, I'm not coming to work because of COVID-19, then you should not include that employee in your weekly filing. More information is available on the Georgia Department of Labor website. The remainder of slides, which are available to you in the portal, address the Families First Response Act and the CARE Act and various opportunities that are available to employees with respect to leave under those statutes. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you so much, Grace and Brent, for your presentations. Samantha, do we have any questions in the chat room? While Samantha is getting ready with that first question, I do want to share with everyone that with the presentations that we're bringing to you, the Atlanta Business League has attempted, I have attempted to apply for many of the grants and the loans that you've been hearing about over the last few weeks. And I do want to share yesterday, I want you to know that it is real. I received an email from the SBA, and they were responding to my request for the $10,000 advance. I hope you saw that. It was a $10,000 advance on the economic injury disaster loan. So they acknowledged that they received it, but also they said to me, which I have not submitted, they said to ensure that the greatest number of applicants can receive assistance during this challenging time, the amount of your advance will be determined by the number of your pre-disaster employees and those employees who were with your firm as of January 31st of this year. The advance will provide $1,000 per employee up to a maximum of $10,000. With the way it was written initially, it appeared that that you could get $10,000 without fail. I think that has been rewritten, and now it will be based on your number of employees. So I encourage you, if you have not applied for that advance, please do so. They are responding. Secondly, I'd like to share that I received a notice this morning from Citizens Trust Bank that the Atlanta Business League's PPP application has been approved and it will be processed by the end of this week. So I'm saying that, sharing that with you. I'm not sure where you are in the process, but please do not hesitate to apply for these dollars that are there. It is real and it is happening. So put your best foot forward, apply, it won't hurt. So now we'll go to questions. Samantha?
Okay. Brent, can you explain the difference again between being furloughed and being laid off?
Yes. When we talk about a furlough, we talk about not severing the employment relationship. The individual who is furloughed for a specific period of time. Many institutions, even prior to COVID-19, in an economic crisis, will furlough employees for a period of time in order to reduce payroll. So if you have 12-month employees, you would furlough those employees for 30 days to only pay those employees for 11 months. So under a furlough, there is a definite expectation of returning to work, and there is not a severing of the employment relationship. The person is basically simply put on hold for a period of time and they are not paid. When there is a layoff, that is an actual severing of the employment relationship. Even though there is an expectation of recall, there is not a commitment to recall. So an individual who is laid off, the employment relationship is severed for the period of layoff, while there's an expectation of recall if the employer is unable to get back on its feet and or other economic circumstances prevent the employer from from recalling those employees. Those employees would be permanently laid off and or terminated.
Okay, another question for you, Brent. Can you please explain what is meant by independent contractor? Is this to include careers like Uber drivers, cab drivers, delivery services, and etc.?
It's a very interesting question. The issue of whether or not Uber drivers are independent contractors is one that will probably find its way to the United States Supreme Court. There's litigation throughout the country, primarily in California, where Uber drivers are challenging their status as independent contractors under California's labor code in order to qualify for benefits that the state of California provides for employees, but does not provide for independent contractors. Generally speaking, the Internal Revenue Service and the U.S. Department of Labor has a 20-factor test to determine who is an independent contractor. The most important factors of that test are that the individual is a 1099 employee. They are not extended any benefits. They understand that their relationship is that of an independent contractor, and they have the ability to control their own income by either setting their own working hours and conditions, and or they have the ability to work for others in terms of the time in which they want to dedicate to employment. One of the great tragedies in many of the employment settings is the failure of an employer to properly designate an individual as an employee, and then the employer finds themselves in a situation where they have to pay back unemployment taxes, FICA taxes, FUTA taxes, because they misclassified an individual as an independent contractor.
Okay. If you are self-employed and take withdrawals versus a W-2, then are you not eligible for unemployment?
If you're not a W-2 employee, if you take withdrawals and you generally receive a K-1 or a 1099, you generally would not be eligible for unemployment.
Okay. Staff that did not receive benefits because of not being at work long, do they qualify for the $600 weekly? And if so, what is the process to apply for the staff?
Part-time staff are now eligible under the amendments that are under the Families First Coronavirus Protection Act. The employer, as indicated, must go online and report the reduction of hours for those part-time employees, and those employees likewise have to go online to apply for unemployment compensation benefits. But the fact that they were not receiving benefits and were working for you does not disqualify them for unemployment benefits, because now part-timers are eligible when before they were not.
Okay, you touched on this a bit, but if you could just explain it in some more detail. My independent contractors are not W-2. How are they eligible for unemployment?
It is up to them to apply. An independent contractor who is 1099, the employer or the contractor would not list those people in their unemployment report because they are not your employees. But an independent contractor who is a 1099 independent contractor has to apply for benefits on their own.
While we wait for the next question, I wanted to qualify a statement I made earlier as it relates to some of the SBA opportunities, the grants, the PPP, the loans. What you do have to do is decide which one is best for you. We chose to focus initially on the PPP application because those dollars have the opportunity to be forgiven in total. So if you compare as a business owner, which is better for you, if the PPP application of those dollars, which are possibly forgivable, will be best for your business, then you need to focus on that. We tried to apply for both initially to make sure that our paperwork was in. So now that we've been approved for the PPP, we will probably not be eligible for the loan, and possibly not the advance. But getting the PPP dollars really was a better decision and a greater dollar amount for the Atlanta Business League. So talk with your banker, talk with whomever you may need to talk to that you're working with, and ask as many questions as you possibly can and that you need to make sure that you get the best bang for the time that you put into applying for the loan with SBA. Go ahead,
Okay.
Samantha.
I have a question for you, Grace. Do you have loan programs specifically for federal government contracts?
Not specifically for federal government contracts.
Okay.
The only loan programs that are open right now are business continuity or emergency loans, and they go up to $50,000. That's the only thing we have open right now.
Okay. Regarding the EIDL, this person still hasn't heard back. They've sent an email. Who is the best contact person that they might consider reaching out to get a response?
I will respond to that. That really is a difficult question. You've emailed, you've called. I do know that they are attempting to process these quickly. I didn't reach out, so I was pleasantly surprised to see that they, as it related to the EIDL, that they responded to me. So all I can do right now is encourage you to be patient. They are processing as quickly as possible. It does not hurt to call and email again. That may be helpful. It may not be, but they will respond. We had Terry Dennison, the SBA district director, on this call last week, and she did say that they are going to respond to each and every applicant in one way or another.
Okay. Question for you, Brent. If you have a few locations, is the $10,000 per location, or is it just for the company as a whole?
The minimum amount in terms of what the individual has to earn in order to qualify for unemployment compensation? Or are we talking about whether or not the employer is covered by the Families First Coronavirus Recovery Act?
It's not specified.
Samantha, if they're mentioning that $10,000, I think they may be be asking the question about the $10,000 advance. I don't know the answer to that question. That would be a question that's better asked of an SBA representative as it relates to that advance. I do not know.
Okay. Give me one moment.
And as I recall, Samantha, one other piece, and this is in response to the person that asked the question. Last week, the SBA district director gave us 2 telephone numbers. So what we will have to do is enter that telephone number into the chat room. So it may be a different number than you're already calling. We don't know that, but we'll enter it so that everyone has that telephone number also.
Okay. Next question. An employee working for an auto parts store was told masks could not be worn at work. He's concerned about contracting COVID if he goes to work in this public environment. If he quits for health reasons, is he eligible for unemployment?
He probably would be under these circumstances. The law developing with respect to COVID is ever evolving, and this is going to impact many areas of the law. If a person quits because they feel that they are unsafe or that their working environment is unsafe, they potentially have a claim with the Occupational Safety and Health Administration. If they quit in concert or strike in concert with other employees because of an environment that they believe is unsafe, they are potentially protected by the National Labor Relations Act. So there are numerous implications with respect to employees and their safety. However, the CDC has recently issued guidelines asking that employers practice social distancing, Also giving the employer options that an employer did not have previously. An employer, for instance, can take everybody's temperature before they come onto the work floor. An employer can ask COVID-19 related questions of all employees before they come onto the work floor. So, you know, the issues with respect to the employer-employee relationship and COVID-19 are ever evolving. And, you know, we'll simply have to see how a lot of this shakes out. These are issues that in many instances, we just have not ever seen before.
Okay. I was not originally eligible for the $1,200 stimulus check. Now I've been furloughed. How do I ensure that I receive a stimulus?
That's out of my bailiwick. I really don't know about the qualifications for the stimulus check.
Now, the $1,200 stimulus check, that check is actually based upon, from my understanding, your filing of income tax and your income. As I recall, as an individual, a single person, it's if you make more than $75,000 per year, you're not eligible. A couple, if you make more than $150,000 a year, you're not eligible. So that does, based upon our conversation today, employees and employers, that's not applicable for today's conversation. It would be based upon your filing of your income tax and your income for 2019.
Okay. Should we speak to our banker regarding the SBA loan options or to someone else?
You can speak to your banker. You also can look at the resource package and you'll see that there's the website and a phone number for the ACE Women's Business Center. You'll see there's also one for Morehouse's Innovation and Entrepreneurship Center. Both of those entities are in touch with the SBA and are providing information and referral services on the SBA loan programs.
Okay. Leona, that concludes all the questions from the chat.
Okay, wonderful. Aisha Thomas just shared with us and that she just received the $1,000 per employee. So again, I shared that because I want you to know that these opportunities are real, and in order to receive them, you have to apply, but you have to make a decision on which of the SBA dollars will best fit your needs at this point in time. So again, thank you to our speakers, Grace Fricks and Brent Wilson. Thank you all for joining us. This is the Atlanta Business League's weekly COVID Issues and Opportunities series, and look to hear from us as it relates to next Tuesday's topic. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you.